Hi, I'm Winifred Davis again. Oh man, I can talk, can't I? But there are just so many messages to deliver. And then I have to give the history and also explain them so that you can understand them. I have to give the background as well. You get a lot of the background once again from those books. So this is video number 4. It's not going to be very long actually. Now this is Israel and America. That special, abusive relationship. The relationship between Israel and America is an abusive one. Israel is the abuser. Remember now, I say it like it is. Justice is without favor of fear, and the truth, there are no sides to the truth. There's no my side and your side. The truth stands unopposed. They can be proven with facts. And that's why I suppose you have the empiricism of science, which I believe in. However, I know as a shaman and as a psychic medium that outside of those prison bars, because we're prisoners of our senses, and that applies on earth, in the spiritual realm, they don't apply. I know that there are things that science cannot explain, and a humble scientist, a wise one, will leave the door open because you never know. So I have to speak the truth. It's not that I'm picking on Israel, but the truth is the truth. And if you go through my book, I call out different people, including Jamaicans, an ingenious set of people. But my God, they're homophobic. And at the same time, they say that Jamaica is not a real place because of the things that keep happening there that is just unbelievable. Like, for example, some time ago when just about all the sand from a beach went missing. There goes the light again. Why? Nobody knows. Nobody can explain. Nobody saw anything. How could all the sand from a beach go missing? Jamaica is not a real place. I call all that out in my book, and I call out Africa. Mother Africa has not taken care of her children for more than 1,500 years. She hasn't. And even now, she has bloviating buffoons berating her. Degrading her as she, because of corrupt politicians, allow colonialism 2 or 3.0 to come in and take away all their resources that they should be using to sell at market value for their own people, to raise them up, give them away, and then turn around, and these bloviating buffoons can turn around and maybe I'll give you some alms, maybe I won't, maybe I'll show you charity, or like Elon Musk when he cut off so much. So I call out Mother Africa. You can't blame colonialism anymore. You cannot blame Europeans. You can't blame the white man anymore. because you're in charge. So I call everybody out. And I have a whole section of calling everybody out. We all need to do better. We all live in glass houses. So, going back to that. But where there's life, there's hope. And not every Israeli, but just too many of them. There are too few of them who are not morally bankrupt. Now, as I said, the relationship between America and Israel is an abusive one. Israel is the abuser. Hello. Many are Israel's friends. Even to their own detriment, they're Israel's friend. They will stand up and die for Israel. But Israel is no friend to them. Israel is no friend to anyone but Israel. And that's geopolitics. So you should consider your people first. America first. Canada first. That's normal. But for various reasons, this is the way it is. Guilt on the part of the Europeans. Compromat, Mossad, they've wielded that compromat. Jeffrey Epstein from 1980s had a big part in this. Religion, with those Zionist zealots, those ignorant Zionist Christian zealots in America, and all the nonsense they spew about the second coming. Those are some of the reasons. Well, we might sound rambling here, but thoughts are rambling. And there is just so much. We are redundant. I love history, so that's why I try to explain everything as well. I want people to learn. I love people to learn. My books are my most prized possessions. And if you come to my house, everywhere in my house is filled with books. And my son, my youngest son, is just like me. We love books. We love learning. We love knowledge. We are redundant, and I am redundant, but history is redundant. Incorrect deeds are redundant. Finally, as I finish this last video, I want to leave you with a cautionary tale. I want to leave Americans with a cautionary tale. Consider the Baghdad bombings that I spoke about of 1950-51. Over the years, the Israeli armed forces have deliberately taken American lives. And as recently as 2025, and I think I heard a couple days ago, a young American was killed by Israel in the West Bank. They have done so, taken American lives with impunity, without consequences. Or even if they charge a soldier, for example, goes in the front door and he comes out the back, sort of like accused, allegations, front page allegations, and back page vindication. Americans should ask their politicians why. It is a pattern and it's been going on for a long time. How can we kill our friends with impunity? Israel has also been accused of and has been guilty of having had beforehand, now these are not conspiracy theories, knowledge of other attacks that have targeted American or American assets, but chose not to warn America because it was not in Israel's interests. So in other words, they couldn't care less. Please remember that we do not peddle in conspiracy theories. American administrations, both Democratic and Republican, often hide, smooth over, and downplay these incidents as nothing burgers. These egregious acts, the public needs to demand why they have been smooth over as nothing burgers. Examples of this include deliberate murder or assassinations of not only Americans with dual citizenship, naturalized citizens, including Shireen Abu Akleh and the Turkish-American activists. And I'm going to go crazy trying to say this again. I practiced it, but Yezi, okay? Forgive my pronunciation. But also of American-born citizens, like white American Rachel Corrie and 17-year-old Palestinian-American Tawfiq Abdul Jabbar, died in 2024. Rachel Corrie died in 2003, and they were all killed by the Israeli Defense Forces. Those deaths have been at best ignored by the American government or the findings covered up, as in the case of Shireen Abu Akleh, and I believe covered up by the Biden administration. But Anthony Blinken, the pretend fireman with the water hose, the empty water hose that has never been connected to a fire hydrant, and the true arsonist with the replenished gas can behind his back. I have a poem that my guides gave me dedicated to him, and it's called The Man with the Forked Tongue. Now, how can we know that our dearest brother, our strongest ally and friend, is in danger and not warn them? Now, we know countries and we know geopolitics. I'm not schooled in these things. What do I know? I'm just a little old lady talking maybe to these learned people. Nonsense. All I know is geopolitics is geopolitics. And we know that all countries are friends, they spy on each other, and they should, perhaps, because you have to watch your friend more than your enemy, because you already know who your enemy is. You don't know what your friend is. You can never trust mankind. We know that. But even in all that, how can we know that our dearest brother, strongest ally and friend is in danger and not warn them? We would appear to do so because we know that their suffering will force them to help us fight a battle that is not our own. So if you know, for example, that a certain group is going to bomb America, but you're against that group or other groups affiliated with that group, you won't tell America. You let them bomb America, because then America will get mad at them, which serves your purpose. And so you will let it go like that. And that is supremacist ideology and practices. And because they're supremacists, eventually as they eat themselves inward, only one must stand. In other words, dog, nyam, dog. Dog eats dog. Supremacist ideology and practices is cannibalistic. Well, this is a one-sided friendship. One that is not really mutual. Is that a friendship in deeds or one of words and platitudes? Is that a friendship at all? That, once again, is an abusive friendship. One in which America, once again, is the abused. Americans should ask their corrupt politicians why they have put America in a death spiral in this one-sided friendship in which they have been and are constantly abused. Let us illustrate this sad state of affairs with this cautionary tale. On June 8th, 1967, at the height of the Six-Day War between Israel and the Arab states, Israeli warplanes and airplanes deliberately, this is irrefutable evidence is there, attacked the USS Liberty, a ship belonging to their greatest ally and friend, the United States of America. It was a relentless attack that saw the Israeli warplanes retreat and return repeatedly to attack even the rescuers. That's what they do, maximum damage. This is their regular modus operandi. Remember, they did that with the sergeant's affair with the British soldiers in 1948. And they've done this all through. They've done it in Iran recently in a square. They usually wait 7 minutes. They did it in Rafah in the 50s. And they've done it all the time. And 3 times, and we're shocked, but this is more than 3 times. It was a relentless attack, as I said, that saw the Israeli warplanes retreat and return repeatedly to attack even the rescuers. It was not just the IDF modus operandi, terrorist tactic, double tap, strike, or even the triple tap strike, as was recently witnessed in the recent slaughter and the massacre of multiple journalists and medics in Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis in Gaza on August 25th, 2025. Now remember, these are the tactics, these are terrorist tactics. These kind of tactics were and are used by Al-Qaeda and Boko Haram. Many in the West are surprised, but if you study history and the way the IDF operates, wouldn't be surprised. America has done it as well in the Middle East, for instance. I think that's illegal, actually, in international law, but I'm no lawyer. The USS Liberty was severely damaged. 34 crew members, including 1 civilian and National Security Advisory Council, I believe, were killed, and 171 employees were wounded. Once again, it was not an accident. The Israeli Defense Force, I'm getting tired, knew what they were doing visually and audibly. There has been a cover-up. There was no accountability. Americans once again should ask their corrupt politicians why and take no geopolitical mumbo jumbo, spin, and circusy contortions from them. Don't let them bamboozle them. These politicians do not have the strategic interests of the Republic of America at heart. We end this section with the following recommendations, advice from the findings of the Independent Commission of Inquiry into the Israeli attack on USS Liberty. The recall of military rescue support aircraft while the ship was under attack and the subsequent cover-up by the United States government. Capitol Hill, D.C., October 22, 2003. Quote, that a danger to our national security exists whenever our elected officials are willing to subordinate American interests to those of any foreign nation, and specifically are unwilling to challenge Israel's interests when they conflict with American interests. This policy, evidenced by the failure to defend USS Liberty and the subsequent official cover-up of the Israeli attack, endangers the safety of Americans and the security of the United States. We're seeing that. We see that every day, too often. And boy, was it ever on display during the Iraq War, because it was America's temptress Netanyahu who pulled them into the Iraq War. And Israel didn't lose a soldier, didn't lose money, but America spent trillions. They lost over 4,000 American lives, and the Allies lost lives. The Iraqis, some say perhaps close to 1 million. How many millions more were injured? How many thousands of Americans were injured? And what for? For Israel, they lost nothing. And those trillions of dollars could have been spent, or maybe it was 1 trillion, 2 trillion, I'm not sure, could have been spent repairing America's decaying infrastructure, improving its education system, because 53% of Americans cannot read. Their reading comprehension level is at 4th grade. It would cut down on the amount of flat earthers that you have in America and going backwards instead of forwards. Have people believing that weathermen cause hurricanes, calling others to gather to destroy the radars, and threatening weathermen when their politicians, their Republican politicians, tell them this nonsense. Having someone stand up while COVID was rampant and telling the doctors, you people need to go back to school because you don't know anything about COVID, I do. And furthermore, the person said in such arrogance, I don't wear underwear because God says everything must breathe. You wonder, why was she wearing any clothing at all? All that money could have been spent on health care for themselves, and they followed the temptress of America. I'm not American. In a past lifetime I was. And it grieves me to see that democracy going over the cliff. But then, of course, John Adams did say, he did expect it. And I have his quote about democracies in here, that eventually they would go. And he, as well as Madison, knew that educating the voting population, they believed in education and said that everyone should be educated. Because if you're educated, and especially when it comes to civics, you would make proper decisions and not vote against your interests. You would know the type of people you were voting for. They couldn't just feed you rubbish, and you no critical thinking. You need critical thinking skills so that shysters and con men don't bamboozle you and fool you. But let me go back to the commission and what it says. The commission recommends USS Liberty Remembrance Day in order to commemorate USS Liberty's heroic crew and to educate the American people of the danger to our national security inherent in any passionate attachment of our elected officials for any foreign nation. America needs to hear this. They need to know this right now, because their democracy, their country is about to fall over the cliff. Joe Biden, he helped a lot on domestic issues, but he didn't do his job. He is also responsible for what has happened. And I'm going to give you a treat before I finish off here. And it is about a vision that I had a day before the US elections. Now, a day before the US election, I should say the night before. Well, usually I will follow it, but I was busy. I just wasn't very interested because I didn't feel good, and it was just filled with rubbish. And well, in the elections before, I asked a question months before, and I took every state and I asked, is this going to be Democratic or Republican? So I go to states that I know can switch. And I saw Texas turn blue. Yes. And Georgia, North Carolina, red. And a couple weeks before, I went back and asked again. Well, Texas had flipped back to red, sorry. But Georgia stayed blue. And it did stay blue. And I asked in those last weeks about Arizona and Nevada, and they showed blue. They said blue. This elections is November 2024. No, I didn't even ask. However, in a way, I kind of knew that it was very perilous because of Joe Biden's actions, and I think he underestimated and liked the soul that he was, the entity that he was in another lifetime. Sometimes his ego and he thinks that he's smarter sometimes than what his common sense would tell him. when he, in his past life, that's relevant to this one, he had slaves. And so in Pennsylvania, you were only allowed to have after 6 months that a slave lived in Pennsylvania, you had to set them free. So what he would do is he would move his slaves across state line and then start the clock back again. And so this was the same sort of trickery. And at the same time, he tried to trick someone. He was selling a horse or horses to someone who loved horses. And he tried to bamboozle him, but the person knew his horses. And he said, "You can't fool me." Well, in these elections, what he did, he was willing to die on the hill of Zionism, because he said he was a Zionist. And in my book, it goes back and proves it from 1982, what he said. God rest his soul. He's a very empathetic man who's been through a lot in his life, and he's handled them well. But he just couldn't bring about this part of his Neptunian journey that he chose. He hadn't reincarnated enough and had enough experience to get over it. And so he didn't mind. He figured that he'd probably lose the Palestinian, Arab, and Muslim votes, and the young people, some of them. That Rainbow Coalition that helped him win. Because he would get the votes from the white working class and white women, because abortion was an issue. It couldn't let the other party get in. But if he or his people had gone and looked at 70 years of polling, they would know that those are magical elixirs. White women, when it comes to presidential races, the majority of them always vote for the Republican Party, the party of the white man. And the white working class, well, working class means like at least 50% of the working class in America are BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, people of color. And the rest white, and not all the white working class vote Republican, but he figured he'd have the union votes and all of this stuff. But what he failed to understand was that a lot of these people, they don't change because racism in America, and I tackle this in the book too, Through the Eyes of the Soul, is so pernicious in America. It's that other face of America, that Hitlerian face of America. So he could never convince them, no matter what he did, because Democrats always have policies. Republicans have nothing but deregulation, red meat of xenophobia, immigration, and tax cuts for the rich. That's all they have. That's all they've ever had. Nothing more. So those people, they would prefer to cut off their noses and spite their faces. And so he figured that he could pick them off, and that would make up for the votes that he would lose, because he refused to do what he had to do for the Palestinian people. So, in spite of the malfeasance, and a lot of malfeasance, which you'll hear more about, the universe always works with us. Just as I said with Europe, when you do what you have to do. And Kamala Harris, it was in her cards, but it wasn't set in, so she had a little wiggle room there. She didn't do what she was supposed to do. All she needed was to grow a spine, a speech, a phone call, and a meeting, and I won't elaborate on that. That they would have been able to squeak by, but so it is. This is a time, a providential time, and this one had little wiggle room. And well, the guides from before, when they chose, these two chose to go on this journey, because we choose our sole purpose when we're back in the spirit world, they weren't ready. They had not had enough, but of course they wouldn't listen, even if the guides had told them, and they're not going to force them. Free will, in any case. Now, on the night before, I was standing at my back gate, and when I looked in my backyard, down towards the back, I saw the whore of Babylon, the golden calf. But it's not even real gold, it's fake gold. The chaos, the agent, was standing there, tipped over, like the way he tips when he is standing in front of Gavin Newsom. And the neighbors on my street had gathered over the fence as he tipped over, and he was telling them a lot of things, and I had my hands folded like this. And I was wondering, my goodness, what lies is he telling them? What promises is he making? And they're actually believing him. Oh my God. And all of a sudden I heard a siren, and I saw someone, and I won't elaborate on who that person was. But in due time, I will let you know when the time is right, when it's realized. Hopped over the fence, and I thought police, and he zipped by me through my back gates. He was dressed in a ninja suit. This is kind of funny. A gray ninja suit, not a black one. And now remember, ninjas, as far as I know, real ninjas in Japan, and I think they had women ninjas as well, they didn't really have any particular uniform that they wore. I think the suits that you see in the movies, that's more like a creation of Hollywood, I believe. And if I'm wrong, please feel to correct me. And he hopped on the motorbike. And then we heard more and more sirens. And Interpol. Now you know what Interpol is, right? That's international police. He took off on his bike. And when I returned, I thought to myself, I said, and I memorialized that. That's it. The angel threw the stone to warn Joe Biden. So that they would not take America's democracy and the Palestinian people's welfare over the cliff. And yes, he should have resigned when he said he would, but he didn't. And I think, as I said in video 1, I believe, or 2, I can't remember which one, I knew it was late when he did, and he shouldn't have done that speech, because when I heard that he was going to do that speech, my guide said, disaster. And the 2 hosts on CNN made certain that it was a disaster. Now, that was the little tidbit I thought I would give you. And yes, it is true. The people, for some reason, believed all the lies and the nonsense and the ridiculous things like solving wars in 24 hours. Really? And you're going to reduce prices in days. We know that's not how it works. But if you have critical thinking skills, you wouldn't let con man fool you. And then, of course, as I said, a lot of those people, because of their racism, America's problem, and it threatens to destroy that country. It is so pernicious. And I deal with it here and explain why. And the solutions and how you get over that so that we can all move on. Now, as I said, the historical events that I have stated here are to be found in my books that I showed you. And they will provide a fulsome context and explanations. Now, the next book I will have coming out at the end of March into early April. It's called Home at Last: The Reunion and Karmic Journeys of Akhenaten and Nefertiti, a case study in reclaiming past lives. And my God, I'm going over 20 minutes. I'm almost done, about 5 minutes. I have been harsh and critical, and I mean, I've roasted, the whore of Babylon, but then that's not roasting really. That is the image that I have to describe it. My hosts, my guides, some of them, the way they explain things, some of them have a good sense of humor. But then we have to laugh sometimes at ourselves. And when it comes to roasting people, I come from a family who were good roasters. My grandfather was a good roaster. My dad, my mom, my grandmother, no, she was stern. She didn't. My great-grandmother, well, yes, she was a good roaster. And I roast. But before I roast people, I usually roast myself, like I'm going chin skating. Because my chin is long. And I will say, well, I could give some of my chin to those people, those white supremacists who are so obsessed with strong chins, but they have none. Or, as Garth Ennis says in his graphic comics there, he says in The Preacher, I think it's number 7 or something. Is it the Preacher, or I can't remember which one. I have it in my book. He says, in there, says, why is it that it's the worst of the white race that always believes that they are the saviors of the white race? We're the, I don't say those words, is your chin. And I would add to that, well, you do need a chin so that you can take it on the chin. Well, anyhow, I have been harsh and I offer no apologies. I have to be that way. I have to tell the truth. That's the only way we get to move on, so that we can all look in the mirror of self-reflection and try to improve. If I am harsh or appear to be with one group or other, they're only masks. I'm dealing with souls behind the masks. Descriptions I give, as I did for the whore of Babylon, is as directed by my guides. And I told you, as I said, cloaca mouth, why he has that mark. But remember, he won't tell his secrets, but but he'll tell yours. And if he invites you to dinner, don't go. He'll tell everybody how you ate and what you ate, and maybe that you ate too much. But the whore of Babylon needs to look in the mirror to see his faults when he criticizes and mocks people about their weight and other things. But of course he won't. Supremacists cannot self-reflect. They have no shame. It's unfortunate. As usual, I close with this. Hate, hitching a ride. Hate, a contagion. A cancer metastasizing. An opportunistic bacteria. The cloud waiting to block the sun. Hate, waiting to hitch a ride on the train of love. Hate, the rat on its rat passage. Hitching a ride on the boat to the plague. Hate, the bedbug waiting for our suitcase. Hate, the roach riding on our coattails. Hate, the shadow always lurking behind, sometimes longer than us. Just lurking behind the thin curtain, waiting for its turn on center stage to take us to a place not so far away, a blast back from civilization to barbarism, from knowledge back to ignorance, from wisdom back to impudence. Hate never takes a holiday, always looking for the opportunity to hitch a ride on the train of love. Hate inhabits the same house as love within us. None of us is without blemish. All of us, excluding none, is slated for redemption. It is not a question of if, but one of when. Every one of us are brothers in this brotherhood of man, no matter our spiritual mistakes and incorrect actions. Even Benjamin Netanyahu can and will find amazing grace, as did the author of the song of the same name, John Newton, slave trader turned Anglican cleric and abolitionist, after his near-death experience in 1748 on the ship the Greyhound off the coast of Ireland. God the Creator, that something that is greater than us, has no chosen few. He gave unto us the vehicle that is reincarnation to help us bring our souls back into equilibrium. That something that is greater than us is not vindictive, selective, or supremacist in ideology and practices. That something that is greater than us bequeath unto none no parcel of land. That something that is greater than us would be short-sighted, cynical, and cruel, because seas and oceans drown lands. They rise and they drown lands. Volcanoes erupt and cover lands with lava and ashes, and earthquakes swallow us and our belongings. No, do not believe anyone who feeds you that Kool-Aid that God gave a group any parcel of land. We cannot fight for or on behalf of that something that is greater than us. It doesn't need us to fight on that behalf, on behalf of Him. That is arrogant. That is the reason we are here. Our arrogance. It wasn't Lucifer's arrogance. Oh no, not at all. Lucifer wasn't stupid. It was our arrogance. We are the fallen angels, and that's why we are here on this earth to try to bring back equilibrium to our souls so that we can return to the Father. That's something that is greater than us, and continue on our journey. We're all tenants on this earth, not here to have dominion or to rule over anything or anyone. We are not here to have dominion over the fowl of the air, the fish in the sea, or the beasts in the fields. We are not here to have supremacy over our brothers. Let us be good tenants. Let us take care of each other and of ourselves. Let us trod ever so lightly and take care of this planet called Earth and all the creatures that dwell thereon. Remember that there is something that is greater than us. That is the fatherhood of God. We respect, we show our respect and our love for that something that is greater than us by loving and taking care of ourselves, of our brothers, and of the planet. May we never try to free our conscience so that we will always do correct actions. May we learn to walk a mile in our brother's shoes so that we can see the humanity in each other. May we respect the differences in each other and know that our Creator has no chosen few. May we find comfort in the knowledge that each of us is slated for redemption. None is excluded. May we find solace in the knowledge that it is not a question of if, but one of when. Each of us shall return to our Father. May we know that we're just tenants on this earth and take care of each other, the earth and all the creatures that dwell therein. May we always adhere to the divine principles of the fatherhood of God, the brotherhood of man, doing unto others as we would have them do unto us. My guide says them, not others, unto us. May we know that which I do unto my brother, I do unto myself, for I am my brother's keeper. May the tiny shrouds of light forever illuminate our path through the darkness. May peace forever reside within us and between us. One divine, universal